My daughter-in-law called me a freeloader at the table where they were selling our diner. We were in the back booth at the Bluebird, the one Eddie and I used to count the register in after close, and two people from a restaurant group had their folder open between the salt shakers. The woman buying asked who the older lady in the apron was, and Ashley answered before I could open my mouth. "That's Danny's mother. She helps in the kitchen. She's lived off the family for years, so we'll send her off with a little something and a thank you." Then she patted my hand the way you settle a child who wandered in from the cold. I had cooked every breakfast out of that kitchen for 31 years. I left my hands folded and let her talk, because once you have made payroll out of your own checkbook, you stop mistaking the loudest voice in the room for the one that read the paperwork. My name is Joan Bell. Eddie and I opened the Bluebird with a second-hand fryer and a loan from his brother, since the bank took one look at two kids in their 20s and said no. We built it a plate at a time. After Eddie's heart quit on a Tuesday, I held the place together the only way I knew. I cooked, I scrubbed the grill, and when Friday's register came up short, I made it whole from my own account so the girls would still get paid. Every one of those slips went into a coffee tin on the shelf above the stove. Eddie used to say, "You write down what you put in before you ask anybody to remember it." When Danny married Ashley, the two of them decided the Bluebird ought to be run like a real business. She took the front and the money, and she was good at the front. I will give her that. She wrote me onto the schedule as kitchen help and started calling me Danny's mom to the regulars instead of Joan. The office was handled now, she said, and I should stick to cooking where I was useful. I let her have it. A mother can talk herself into believing a door is open long after her own son has shut it. What nobody bothered to add up was how much of that diner was already mine. When the ovens died, I bought new ones and let the company owe me. When 2 slow seasons in a row drained the account, I covered payroll and papered it as a loan, the way Eddie did the first one, with a date, an amount, my signature and Danny's, and a lien filed against the business, so it was real. I never asked for a cent back. The girls had kids at home, and the Bluebird was the last warm thing Eddie and I built. By the time they sat me down to sell it, the business owed me more than the building would bring. The sale moved fast, the way a thing moves when somebody wants it signed before anyone reads it twice. A restaurant group wanted the Bluebird, the name, the corner, the breakfast crowd, and Ashley wanted ink on paper before the spring rush. To her, I was a soft expense, the kind you clear with a goodbye check. They sat me in the booth to wave me off. Nobody slid a pen my way. I did not make a scene. 31 years of dead freezers, surprise inspections, and girls I carried through their hardest winters teaches you to keep your hands still until you can see what you are hitting. I had no plan. I had one fact none of them had thought to look up, and in a sale, the first question is never who owns the most. It is who stands at the front of the line to be paid. Every dollar I put into that diner was written down, signed, dated, and filed, not handed over as a gift, loaned to the business and secured against it, with a financing statement on file, because Eddie taught me that a promise you cannot prove is just a feeling. For years, the Bluebird carried debts to me that I had never once called in. I was not holding them over anyone. I just never drew a line through a number that had not been paid. So when the buyers ran their due diligence, they were not reading the old woman in the apron. They were reading what the business owed, and my name sat at the top of that page, above the family, above the sale. The group sent in their own closing agent, a soft-spoken man with a calculator who had been quiet the whole meeting. He set down the liability sheet. "Before anybody talks price," he said, "we settle what this business already owes. There is a secured note on the books, several years of advances, a recorded lien, all properly papered. Who is J. Bell?" Ashley said it was an old bookkeeping mix-up she had been meaning to clean up. The agent said a recorded lien with a signature and a payoff schedule does not clean up. And he asked again who at the table was J. Bell. I told him it was me, Joan Bell, the lady who helps in the kitchen. He matched my notes against the company's own bank records, one line at a time, and the longer he read, the faster he turned the pages. The advances, the covered payrolls, the ovens, every figure landed to the dollar, signed by me and by Danny for the company. He turned the folder so the buyers could read it themselves. "This is not money the family gave the business," he said. "It is money the business borrowed and never paid back, and it is secured. It comes out before a single dollar of any sale reaches the owners." Nobody argued. The back booth got that flat kind of quiet a dining room gets when the last chair goes up on the last table. Danny stared at the page like he had just learned his mother spoke a language he never heard at home. He looked down the booth at me, flower still on my sleeve, and the deal closer went out of his face. What was left was a boy who had eaten free his whole life and just been handed the bill. "Mom," he said, and it came out small, Nothing like the Danny's mom Ashley had been passing around all morning. I could have let the agent keep turning pages. One more and the sale collapses in a way that trails Danny for years into the kind of room with a very different sort of man across the table. 31 years gives a woman that much weight if she cares to drop it. I did not. I have buried a husband and more faith in people than I can count, and I have never enjoyed watching anyone go under. Least of all, a child I taught to crack an egg one-handed. I shut the folder and kept my hand flat on it. The debt gets paid, I told them. All of it on paper, before anyone signs. The girls keep their jobs, the name stays clean, and no one in this family calls me a freeloader in front of strangers again. That part was never for sale. I said it low. A woman who fed other people's children on the Fridays the account ran dry does not have to raise her voice the day the truth finally sits on her side of the table. After that, it went quieter than Danny had any right to expect. When I gathered up my folder, the people who mattered gathered with me. The buyer's agent said his client would not put their name near a business until the lien was cleared in full and the deal on the table simply stopped. Rosa, who had run my line 20 years, said the kitchen stayed if I stayed. Donna, who had carried plates since she was 19 and had asked out loud for a year why she was told never to open the office drawer, said she was staying too. They stayed because they knew who counted the till on a dead night, who covered a sick shift without a word, and who had never blamed a girl for a number she had not touched. I am 62, and I went back to my kitchen the way I started, except the loan came off the books the right way this time, on paper, before anyone saw a dime. The restaurant group walked away from a diner they could not buy clean, and that felt less like losing something than finding a door still on its hinges. I run the Bluebird a few more years now, smaller and square, and the loan I never called gets paid back to me slow, out of real eggs and real coffee. I am teaching Donna to keep the books the way Eddie taught me, a date, an amount, a name, the true number first. The sign out front still says Bluebird. It still means what it always meant. Danny does not work the front anymore. He comes in some Sundays and takes a stool at the counter, and I pour his coffee because he is my son and because a mother keeps a few accounts open that have nothing to do with money. He does not say, Danny's mom now. He does not say much at all. For 31 years, I was the woman in the back with flour on her hands, and they took that to mean a soft cost they could wave off with a goodbye check. They were half right. I was soft. I fed them, covered them, carried them. I was just never free because every plate I gave away got written down, and a debt is the one promise the world still pays first. You can call a woman a freeloader all you like. Just be sure the business does not owe her first. If stories about the women who quietly carried the whole thing and got called a burden for it means something to you, subscribe. There is a new one here every week. If you had been in that booth, would you have closed the folder gently or let the agent read every page out loud? Tell me below. And if there is a woman in your life who fed a family that forgot what it cost her, send this to her. She will know.